There's always something special about an Argentine number 10, Shep.
Yeah, Greg, they have those cool long mullets.
Ah, well, it's kind of like Samson. The power is in the hair, and considering our hairdos back in the day, I'm not sure we can talk. Extra Time is next. Welcome to Extra Time, everybody. I'm your host, Greg Lawless, alongside Shep Messing, and today we're having a Schelotto Palooza. It's all guichet all the time. Well, maybe not all the time, because we're also going to look at the 8 impact players heading down the stretch in the playoff race, and we'll take a few of your emails, and of course, the Volkswagen Wow Moment of the Week.
And Greg, if you missed the Beijing Olympic gymnastics, stay tuned for that.
Well, someone who's nailing all of his routines right now is Columbus Crew magician Guillermo Barros Schelotto. The Argentine now has 6 goals and 18 assists on the season, and the Crew have the best record in MLS. Shep, let's break it down a little bit. Is GBS, as the Crew fans like to call their new hero, is he set to win the MVP?
Well, Greg, it's unbelievable, and the irony is Schelotto didn't even make the All-Star team.
That's true.
Right now, he is playing extremely well. I don't think he cares about the MVP. All he cares about is making his teammates better.
Well, one of the things he's doing really well is finding space all over the field in which to operate. You sort of wonder where the defenses are on all of that. Against New England, he had a goal and 2 assists in really what was a statement game for the Crew, 4-0 over last year's MLS Cup finalists.
I don't think there's any question. It starts with Schelotto. It's all about creation and utilization of space. He makes his teammates, especially the young ones, early in the season, we questioned whether the Robbie Rogers, Eddie Gavins, the young guys can step up and play, and Schelotto's made them all better.
He's given them some confidence. Steven Leonard up top as well had a terrific game against New England, and Brad Evans is covering so much ground in behind Barros Schelotto, just doing a lot of the defensive work and getting into the attack. Now, the season record for assists is 27, set by my old teammate in Tampa, Carlos Valderrama, and the Crew now have 7 games left. So that means GBS needs 9 assists to catch Valderrama. Can he do it?
Well, certainly he can do it, but I think, Greg, it's the last thing on Schelotto's mind. All he wants to do is win. And so far, that formula is get everybody involved. If the assists come, they come. It's not a priority for him.
Well, recently he's been averaging about 2 assists a game, so there's certainly a good chance. Now, Barros Schelotto is not the only player who is having a major impact on his team's success right now. With the playoff race closer than ever, one player can make a difference, and we're seeing that. So we thought we would evaluate 8 potential difference makers for the 8 most legitimate playoff contenders in MLS. Just to clarify, we aren't looking at the big teams like Houston, New England, Chicago, who are pretty much set in the playoffs.
Yeah, and further clarification, we're also not necessarily talking about the best players, but the players that are most important for their teams.
That's true. So let's start with Marcelo Gallardo. The DC United number 10 spearheads one of the best attacks in the league. He missed 7 games with an injury, and United went 4-3 during that stretch. They're 1-1-1 since his return. So what does he need to do to ensure that United gets into the playoffs?
Well, Greg, we agree that he's the critical piece for DC United. I'll tell you why. In my opinion, he was never the same player as the guy he replaced, Christian Gomez. Gomez more of a pure attacking midfield player. I think Gallardo, in the remainder of the season, has to find the right balance where he sits in the midfield. He's got to set up Fred. He's got to set up Emilio. He's got to set up Jaime Moreno. He's an important player.
And he also has to get a lot of touches the way he was before he got injured. That was a key for them as well. New York's key guy, maybe? Mike MAGEE. He missed the past game with a staph infection. It was a 1-0 loss to Chicago. But he has been scoring lately. Is he really the key man for the Red Bulls?
Greg, I think Mike MAGEE is, because they were looking for the replacement for Josie Altidore. In the 3-game home stretch, when Mike MAGEE started, he got 3 goals, and in those 3 games, Juan Pablo Angel got 4 goals. So he's the complementary player to feed off of Juan Pablo Angel.
Well, there are also a couple of other players in there. Jorge Rojas is very important,
Absolutely.
I think, for the creativity in the midfield. And Dane Richards getting up and down the flank is also important. For Real Salt Lake, the key man has to be center back Jamison Olave. The team is 1-4-1 when the big Colombian hasn't played, and they've given up 9 goals in their last 3 road games, which is significant considering all the road games they have left on their schedule.
Yeah, I think you're absolutely right. And Olave is a player you singled out at the beginning of the season. Big, strong, physical. He's been everything we expected, but he's got to solidify the defense.
Yeah, and especially on the road. They need to steal some points, and if they're going to do that, the defense has to step up a little bit because they have some good firepower going forward. For Chivas USA, the team right behind RSL in the Western Conference, the difference maker is a forward. It's Ante Razov. The wily veteran hasn't been completely healthy all year, but Chivas are 4-1-2 when he scores a goal or posts an assist. I mean, they need him in there, don't they?
Yeah, there's certain teams, and Chivas is one of them, where one player reflects their character. That player is Ante Razov. He's lethal. He's a very underrated passer of the ball. He's given confidence to the players around him, like Atiba Harris and Braun. Very important.
And you got to figure, in those last 7 games, he's going to need to score at least 4 goals or have a couple of assists as well to help the team getting in there. San Jose are the hottest team in MLS right now. 8 games unbeaten. Darren Huckerby and company are scoring at will, which means that maybe the most important player on the field for the Quakes is in the back, especially with a huge home-and-home series against Houston coming up. Houston scoring lots of goals. So, Joe Cannon, what does the goalkeeper for the Quakes have to do to get them into the playoffs?
Well, Greg, I think it starts with Joe Cannon. It's not that they have not been playing well on the defensive side of the ball, but it's his veteran leadership. They have critical games against a prolific attacking Houston team. Joe Cannon, I think, has to keep his goals against average 1 or below for the rest of the season.
Well, the guy's a 2-time goalkeeper of the year. He also has to make a couple of those really big, huge game-saving stops if they're going to make it against Houston. This might be the 2 games that decide whether they make it in the playoffs or not. In Colorado, there's been a lot of turmoil all season long. Connor Casey, though, is the man. And, you know, here's the big target man. He has 5 goals on the season. He needs to do a little bit more holding the ball up top, I think, and bring his wingers into the play. Colin Clark, Terry Cook, those kinds of guys. And for the offense to really be dangerous, he has to do this. But do you see Colorado making the playoffs considering all they've been through this year?
Yeah, it's been a dysfunctional season for Colorado, but I agree with you about Connor Casey up front. Holding the ball is what he has to do to allow those midfielders to get into the play. He does have to get to goal, but Colin Clark, you mentioned him, Terry Cook, if Connor Casey can win the ball back to the goal, attacking third of the field, let those guys get wide, I still think Colorado's going to struggle to get in.
Yeah, I agree on that one. FC Dallas coach Schellas Hyndman has already run a couple of players out of town since taking over. Arturo Alvarez up to San Jose, Abe Thompson to Kansas City. He's also looking really for a creative midfielder right now. The FCD's only scored 3 goals in their last 4 games, and it looks like Bruno Guarda is going to be the man in the middle. He's a young kid. Is he really ready to take this team and take them to the playoffs?
Greg, I think Guarda, and he did it at SMU under Schellas Hyndman, I think he's going to be a very good player, but I think it's way too early. He's just a couple of months out of college. He's got to get acclimated to the speed, the physicality of the professional game. I think it's too much to ask.
So it comes down to really who is going to be in there. Andre Rocha, maybe? I mean, Rocha's a good player, and he wants to be in the middle. He's been out on the right side a lot, but this is a guy who could do it.
I think he's been in the doghouse for Schellas Hyndman, but I think he's got the tenacity, the creativity, and the skill. I don't know if he's going to get the chance.
Well, that's what they need to get some chances up top. They got to start scoring again. Lastly, and he doesn't end up last very often, David Beckham. The Los Angeles Galaxy have not won in 11 games. It's pretty dreadful, isn't it? Bex will return from the England team this weekend. What does he need to do to make sure that the Galaxy get in the playoffs? Because Galaxy really do need to get in the playoffs this year, don't they?
Well, first, Greg, let's talk about the Galaxy roster. It's almost like you wake up in the morning, you go to button your shirt, you get the first button wrong, you never get it right. So, you know, Bruce Arena and Dave Sarakin have a difficult task. Having said that, I think Beckham really has to play with more bite, more energy on the defensive side of the ball. And in the Bruce Arena system, I think he's got to sit back a little bit deeper and be better in a quick transition getting the ball forward.
Well, there's so much more of a counterattacking team. Certainly he can be that link-up. And I agree with you, the defensive side, he has to stop slacking on defense and get back, because the only way they're going to make the playoffs is if they defend as a team, and that means all 11 players. So there you have it, the 8 guys who could wind up determining whether your team makes the playoffs or hits the golf course next month. Well, let's dip into the email box, and it seems that MLS fans in New England were so frustrated by their team's dismal performance in Columbus that they felt they had to write us this week. John from Medfield, Massachusetts asks, any chance of MLS expanding the season to avoid scheduling conflicts?
Well, John, first of all, this is an issue that the league, the coaches, the players, everybody is well aware of. Having said that, there are challenges to expanding the schedule. I think they're going to work on trying to find the right formula.
Yeah, and some of those challenges, obviously stadium scheduling conflicts. You also have the weather to deal with and travel. Those are all big ones. Deputy Commissioner Ivan Gazidis wrote a blog on MLSnet.com explaining all of this from the league's point of view. There's another side to the Shep, which is that there's a positive out of it. There's now so many players who are internationals playing in MLS that this is a conflict.
Yeah, it is a pleasant problem when so many of your roster players are internationals who get called for international duty.
So we know in the offseason they're going to take a serious look at this. Now, Joe from East Walpole, Massachusetts asks, did playing all the games in July hurt the Revs' chance of making the MLS Cup? And you have to remember, Houston's played just as many games, and they're flying right now.
Well, Joe, we feel your pain for the New England Revolution, but they have been a tired team that has been decimated by injury. Don't count them out. They still have enough time to get it right. Stevie Nicol, Paul Mariner, Taylor Twellman healthy, Shalry Joseph, so it's not over yet.
I think the games have taken their toll, but as they get healthy, they're going to be fine going into the playoffs. If you have any questions, email us at extratime@mlsnet.com. Don't forget to include your address and your shirt size, because if we use your question on the air, you'll get one of those fantastic ETE shirts. Time for the Volkswagen Wow Moment of the Week, and Shep, it's the agony of offside.
Unbelievable nightmare. It's Real Salt Lake at LA Galaxy. Beckham with a shot. Espindola puts it in goal and then celebrates. Wait, something's wrong with Espindola, and the referee is conferring it was offside, no goal. The goal does not count. Wow, this is an absolute disaster for Espindola, for Real Salt Lake. I can't criticize him. I once saved the PK, spiked the ball, ripped the rib cartilage, but what a nightmare. Wow.
Well, Espindola, if you want to see how it's done, watch Brian Jordan. It wasn't really pretty, but he didn't get hurt either. Well done, Brian. Make sure you nail that every single time, or you might end up on the wrong side of the Volkswagen Wow Moment of the Week. Well, that's all we have for you this week on Extra Time. I'm looking forward to the Houston-San Jose game coming up on Saturday.
I'm looking forward to the Battle of the Bottom. Beckham, the LA Galaxy at Kansas City.
Well, join us next week and we'll discuss all that and more, and we'll kick it around.